So Canada is entering a new era with a new cabinet chosen by the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. 28 members, 14 men, 14 women, and then, of course, the Prime Minister on top of that. For more on this, let's go to Laurie Turnbull. She's a professor at Dalhousie University. Laurie, what is your first reaction to the cabinet? Is it enough of a new cabinet to brand it a new cabinet?
Oh, I think so. He's got a little of both. He's got some ministers who we know, who were ministers with Justin Trudeau and his government. And then he's got even more ministers who hadn't been there before. Some of them are new MPs, some of them aren't, but people who I think Carney can say, look, this is my cabinet. I think it's bigger, honestly, than we might have expected. There are 28 ministers plus Carney, and then there are 10 ministers of state. And so even though that's not like it's not like having 38 ministers, it's still a lot of people, which I think probably points to the fact that he plans to streamline discussions in some ways, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to go with a kind of priorities and planning format where, yes, there's this ministry, but there are a few ministers who are the core, who are making the decisions, who are the ones that are closely around him that might have the most impact.
Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the key positions. Francois-Philippe Champagne in finance, LeBlanc on U.S. trade. Tell me about what those choices tell you.
I'm not surprised by Champagne in finance. I think that early on, Champagne decided to park his own leadership aspirations, supported Carney, and knowing that Carney wasn't as strong in French, he didn't have the reach in Quebec that Champagne did by any means. And so I think Champagne really lent Carney a lot of trust, a network, communication, support, fundraising, the whole bit. And I think there is a sense that having Champagne in this role is not only an acknowledgement of the political partnership between those two people, but it's also a sense that, look, Quebec is going to be represented. Quebec is going to be in a key role. Mark Carney is not a Francophone prime minister, but he is making sure that that position that we typically think of as the right hand of the prime minister, the finance, that is a Quebecer. So there's that. I think also Dominic LeBlanc, this is very interesting. Carney made some changes to the immediate team around him who support him on the Donald Trump file, but LeBlanc is clearly front and center. He is there, and he is, responsible for intergovernmental, Canada-U.S. trade, and also building that. I think they call it, the One Canada economy or something like that. And so he is taking all of the priorities that Carney has and putting them together in one minister. And so that's, I think, to me, that gives Dominic LeBlanc a tremendous amount of reach. He is a horizontal minister, and that, even compared to the finance minister, LeBlanc is going to have a far reach within cabinet. It tells me that Carney trusts him. And I think when you're thinking about that turnover from the Trudeau ministry to Carney, LeBlanc was one of the people closest to Trudeau, and Carney is continuing to have that elevated role in cabinet for LeBlanc.
Is he the right voice to take on the Washington administration in what will be a difficult number of years?
Yes, because he's got that je ne sais quoi. He's got the political sense. He's got the emotional kind of intelligence that he can go into a conversation, keep it light, build a social connection. And with Trump, it's all about relationships. And so Dominic LeBlanc is tried and tested in this sense. Like, he's already been to Mar-a-Lago with Trudeau, and then went to the White House with Carney. And so I think he's already built a rapport. And also, not only is he able to kind of chart that territory on the U.S. side, but LeBlanc has an excellent relationship with the premiers, especially Doug Ford. And so in tying these pieces together, in building the partnership and whatever the relationship is going to look like with the U.S., and then extending that into the relationship between the federal government and the provinces at a time where national unity cannot be taken for granted at all, I think it's LeBlanc's political acumen. It's his, a very unusual kind of a very unique strength in that role. Again, when Carney comes at this as a banker, an economist, not a politician himself, Carney is making strategic partnerships about how to run the cabinet.
Are you surprised Mélanie Joly is out? Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand is in. And what do you think of that move?
Not surprised. I think Carney has a lot of respect for Anand. She was somebody who had decided to step aside before Carney came to the picture and then came back in. So I think there must have been a conversation between Carney and Anand about what her future would look like in a Carney government. I also think there could be something happening in terms of the management of the relationship between Quebec and the West. So, for example, somebody who Carney really trusts is going to be Tim Hodgson, who was also ran Goldman Sachs. He was at the Bank of Canada with Carney. He's a trusted advisor. He's been given natural resources, which is really about working on that national unity file and figuring out how to bring the West in. To give Jolie industry seems to me to be a bit of a counterbalance between that. She's a Quebec minister, very solid, very popular, lots of experience, and she's somebody who might be able to bring, again, to that table, that conversation about how to manage, co-manage the interests of the West and the interests of Quebec as we navigate some of these questions, like how do we build a pipeline that the West needs, but build it through Quebec, and a lot of people in Quebec don't want it.
Yeah. Who are the new faces that stand out for you?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few actually. Like there are again like people who were there from the Trudeau time, and then people who ran with Carney, and so someone like Hodgson, I mean, honestly, is somebody who stands out to me a lot. Clearly, that was somebody who Carney recruited to run with him, and I think someone who could have enormous impact in the cabinet. I wondered what he would get, whether he would get finance, but we see him in natural resources, which I think is a big strategic pick for Carney. People like Minister Michelle, who's got health, her first time out, right, is going to be a huge file. Gregor Robertson, who is going to have housing. And I mean, he was obviously the mayor of Vancouver. He's got lots of experience in this file, but he's coming at it now as a federal minister as opposed to a mayor. And so we'll see how that all shakes out.
Any drops that surprised you? People who were there before are now gone?
The only one that really surprised me, to be honest, was Karina Gould. Because I think as somebody who ran against Carney, obviously, in the Liberal leadership, he did bring Freeland back in, who I think was, or kept her there, brought her back in after she kind of had that breakup with Trudeau, which I thought, was not a surprising move necessarily on Carney's part. A lot of times when you've got leadership competitors, you keep them in the fold. I think that honestly, Freeland is much more associated with Trudeau and the Trudeau legacy than Gould would be, even though they were both Trudeau ministers. Gould, I thought, ran an excellent campaign. Obviously, Carney was far and away the winner, but it seems like the choice to leave her out is deliberate, and I don't really understand that.
Yeah, especially when you need that demographic, right? She represents a different generation coming up in Liberals.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Laurie Turnbull, good to have you on this. Laurie, thanks for joining us today.
Good to see you. Take care.